not filled out their portion of the plea agreement form.
Francisco,
I'm in the process of signing it right now.
how much time you think it's gonna take, Kathy?
I have been trying to, we've been having a miscommunication, so I do not know. We can go back in the breakout room if you wish, Your Honor. Or be recalled to the court.
And also, Mr. Collins, who is your client?
Pedro Granados, he's been on here. He's here right now, Sam.
Oh, that's fine. And is it?
I'll keep an eye out for her. Thank you.
I conferred with Ashley on that case, so.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had all that paperwork done. Thank you.
Judge, do you want me to put Catherine and her client in a breakout room?
Do you need to do that, Kathy, or not?
Yes, Your Honor, I would just like to make sure.
I'll give you 5 minutes, otherwise I'm gonna take the other pleas and handle them right now. Oh, ho, ho. Ed Piker,
Yes,
you and Kevin Collins, how the hell did y'all manage to keep all that hair, man?
well, I've been so busy, I haven't been able to get to the barber, so nobody's touching it.
Well, I am tempted to say that I'm envious, but the reality is, it is what it is. So
Oh,
but you guys
without making them mad, I borrowed some from Paul Aceveda.
A long time ago.
I may have got some of Paul's also, Your Honor.
I was happy to give it. I was happy to give it up. Less shampoo, less haircuts.
yeah.
Worked out in the long run.
Just be ordered or whatever, I guess. All right, I'll let her know. Thank you.
Your Honor, it's Catherine Boswell. He's just finishing the references on the probation.
Supposed to be Miss.
Very good. We can do that later, but the main thing I want from him is his income. And for everyone that I've got on here, I want to know for sure that each of them is either is or is not a U.S. citizen.
This Beth ready?
Pedro Granados, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Carlos Gomez, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Francisco Perez. Kathy,
He's just coming back from the breakout room, Judge.
okay. James Flowers, I presume you are? He's in the courtroom, Ed?
Yes, I'm right here.
All right. You're a U.S. citizen, James?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Jose Reyes? Where's Jose Reyes?
He was in the courtroom and then he was in the hall.
He's on Zoom, I think.
He's in
I'm
the,
on Zoom, but I'm
there you are.
right outside the courthouse. And I signed all the paperwork that was sent to me through the email. This is Jose Reyes.
All right, Jose Reyes, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, sir, I am.
Very good. All right, so I don't have to worry about all those. I'll cover that all together. Kathy, let me know as soon as the papers are ready and you got your guy ready, so I can do all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 4 defendants, 5 defendants. Is it 5? Yeah. I thought you had 2 cases, Ed Piker.
I do, one with Flowers and one with Reyes, and you just spoke to
Okay.
both of them.
I got you. We have a Mr. Salazar waiting. Who is he with?
Jesus Lopez, Judge Attorney Jesus Lopez, and they reset it for a plea November 3rd.
Okay, so Mr. Enrique Salazar is excused, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Salazar, you're excused. We're gonna get back with you on November 3rd, so you're free to go. Take care, stay safe.
Yeah.
Mr. Salazar, do you hear me?
Sí, señor, aquí estoy.
Bueno, no me entienden en inglés, disculpe. Mire, su caso lo vamos a ver el día 3 de noviembre. Se ha
Sí, señor.
posponido, ¿ok?
Sí, señor.
Usted está libre, se puede ir.
Gracias, señor.
De nada, cuídese. Kathy, are we ready?
Mr. Perez, I'm trying to reach him. Are you done with your paperwork?
And Mr. Piker, can you just check the chat?
I'm finishing it up. It's just that every time I get called and switch to the screen, it logs me back off because I'm doing it over my phone.
It costs $180 over 12 months.
Catherine. 44.
To do?
Education.
Yes.
Judge, can we have everybody turn their video on for the?
Where are we on fees?
We need the videos from everybody. We need to see-
Your Honor,
Jose, turn your video on.
Your Honor, for the defendants, Ed Piker's clients that are in the courtroom, so they can finish their paperwork,
Put it on the record.
they need to
And
just
for whatever reason it
log
does.
on or stay right there in the front of the video. Just show up there in the video in the courtroom. It'll be easier.
Very good. I see Jose Reyes. He's fine right there.
Cases.
Yeah, Mr. Flowers there.
They're both there.
Anyway, which regardless, if it's.
Francisco Perez, I don't see you.
No sé cómo pagar.
Señor Salazar, usted todavía pertenece a la computadora.
Hey, Your Honor.
All right,
Here,
Able to talk whenever.
gentlemen and lady. All right, Mr. Carlos Gomez.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Francisco Perez,
Here, Your Honor.
James Flowers,
Here, Your Honor.
Jose Reyes,
Yes, sir. Present.
y Pedro González. Pedro González.
Pedro
Granado.
is here.
Granados, I'm sorry. They all sound alike. Pedro Granados. Where are you, Mr. Okay, there you are. You were muted. All right, I need all of you to raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's the fifth one? 1, 2. Okay. Do each of you solemnly swear that in this proceeding, the information and responses you submit will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Granados,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reyes.
Yes, sir.
Very good. You may put your hands down.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, before we get started, I need to cover with each of you specific constitutional rights and protections that each of you has. These are granted by the Constitution and statutes, and they're very important. I'm going to discuss them with you verbally, and Ms. Kayleen Rivera is the court reporter. She is making an official record of everything that's said this whole proceeding. First of all, each of you has the right to remain silent. That right means that none of you can be required to make any statement. None of you can be required to answer questions. None of you can be required to submit written paperwork that has your signature, especially papers that admit or confess to wrongdoing. Do you understand that you have the right to remain silent? Mr. Gomez,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Granados.
Yes, sir.
Right. Each of you has the right individually to a jury trial. That means that each of you and your attorney with the state could select 6 people from a jury pool of citizens that are disinterested and would hear all the evidence, hear the trial. And they would decide whether you were not guilty or whether you have been proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. It's called the right to a jury trial. Do you understand you have that right, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Flowers?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Granados?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes, sir.
You also, each of you individually have the right to confront witnesses. What that means is big words, but what that means is this. Each of you, if you decided to go to trial, the state would have to bring in witnesses to try and prove up their case, to submit evidence. Each of you would have the right with your attorney to question, cross-examine, or challenge any witness who would testify. That's called the right to confront witnesses. Do you understand you have that right, Mr. Flowers?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Granados?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez? Mr. Gomez?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, further, each of you has what's called the right to appeal. After the case is concluded, after it's over, each of you would have the right, with your attorney or without, to demand that a higher court review the official record, all the evidence, testimony, etc. And that higher court, you could require them to respond to or answer any legal challenges you wanted to make. Now, be aware that the right of appeal is a little bit technical. You'd have to be careful with it. You have to use the right forms. You have to say the right things. There's also time limitations, among other things. But that is basically what's called the right of appeal. Do you understand you have the right of appeal, Mr. Reyes?
Yes, I do, sir.
Mr. Granados?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Flowers?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, in addition, each of you has the right to demand that this proceeding be held in the open public courtroom with everyone present, including the judge and the staff and the public. But because of the COVID pandemic, we're doing this through what's called video conferencing. In order to do that, I have seen and I believe that each of you has reviewed some documents wherein you have given your consent and signed that you consent to doing this by video conference. Did you in fact agree to a video conference, Mr. Reyes?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Granados?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Flowers?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, now, to proceed with this hearing on each of you individually, you are required to look over and sign some legal documents. It is my impression that each of you did this with the assistance of your attorney. That is, that the attorney reviewed the documents with you and you understood them and you signed them. So that each of you reviewed documents together with your attorney and understood what you signed? Mr. Granados,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes.
Yes, sir.
Now, each of you attorneys, did each of you carefully review all the documents that have the signature of your client? And did your client understand what was signed? Mr. Collins,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Acevedo,
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Valenzuela,
I believe so, Your Honor.
Mr. Piker
Yes, sir.
on Flowers, and Mr. Piker on Reyes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Piker,
Yeah.
all right.
Yes, sir.
Now, attorneys, did each of you sign an affirmation or declaration that the state has complied with Article 39.14 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure in reference to giving you full discovery, allowing you to make a good decision and assist your client? Mr. Piker on Reyes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Piker on Flowers,
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Ms. Valenzuela on Mr. Perez,
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Acevedo on Mr. Gomez,
Yes, Your Honor.
and Mr. Collins reference to Granados.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, each of you signed a document that's very important and critical. That document is titled Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions. That particular document is somewhat extensive. It identifies you each individually. It says what you're charged with, what your plea is. It also tells you the range of punishment for the particular matter that's involved. Then it also tells you some very important things. One of them is that the deal that's been made with the state by you and your attorney is not binding on me as the judge. As a judge, I have the authority and the responsibility that requires me to say yes or no to your deal. I have to agree or not. I can also give you a punishment within the proper range of punishment for your particular offense, but I can give you a heavier punishment than what you agreed to. Now, if I refuse or reject your deal, or if I give you a punishment within the proper range, but heavier than what you agreed to, then in that case, the law would allow you to start all over again. And nothing that you said or signed up till now would be used against you. Do you understand that that's in that one document, the Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions? Did you know and understand that and sign it, Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Reyes,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes, sir.
and Mr. Granados?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, I have verbally talked to you about the right to appeal. You also have a document in the documents that you've seen and signed that says, excuse me, that because this is a plea bargain agreement, you do not have a right of appeal. Did you understand that, Mr. Perez,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes,
Yes, sir.
Carlos Gomez,
Yes, sir.
and Pedro Granados?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do any of you have any questions, or is there any confusion about the papers that you signed? Mr. Flowers,
No, no, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes,
Yes, I do, sir. As I have an active warrant and I would like to get my process started as soon as possible, can I come back to the courthouse and get taken into custody to complete the part of my plea deal, sir?
that's not part of my question. My question is, do you have any questions about the papers that you've signed?
Not at all.
Okay, we will be attending to the matter that you're talking about. But for right now, this is a list of questions that I'm having to ask. So
Understood.
Do any of you have any questions concerning the paperwork that you've signed?
No, Your Honor.
I take it from the silence, none of you do. All right, now. On Carlos Gomez, you were originally charged with driving while intoxicated second. State what is going to be his plea?
Judge, on this one, it is a no contest plea and it's to a DWI first. We're waiving the second enhancement.
We have no objection.
There's no objection from the defense.
No objection.
All right. Officially, Mr. Gomez, to the charge of DWI first. What is your plea officially?
No content.
All right. For all of you, a no contest plea is considered a guilty plea in this court. Is that understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
And a no contest plea is sufficient for me to convict you on this matter. Is that understood, Mr. Gomez?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, on this plea, what is the agreement on the punishment? State.
Judge, on this one, it is a $500 fine plus court costs. It's 180 days Bexar County Jail probated over 12 months, 60 community service hours, a DWI education, victim impact panel live, TAP evaluation, and ignition interlock for half the term.
That is the agreement as we understand it, Your Honor.
All right. On Mr. Gomez, how do you make a living? How are you supported?
Your Honor, he is self-employed. He has a flooring business.
All right. And under oath, Mr. Gomez, what is your income roughly per month?
It's kind of up and down, Your Honor, to be honest with you, but I put there $2,000 a month. With COVID and all lately, it's just not the same as it used to be. But we just make ends meet how we can, Your Honor.
And do you have children you support?
I do.
How many?
2, Your Honor.
What ages?
One's 25 and one's 21.
Okay, so they're both legally adults.
Yes,
They're not disabled, are they?
no, sir, but they still live at home, unfortunately.
All right. Okay, I accept your plea of no contest. This is not going to be a deferred, are any of these deferred, by the way? State?
No, Judge.
Mine is not.
Okay, so none of them are deferred. All right, gentlemen, just so that we're all on the same page. Probation. Each of you has applied for probation. Did each of you understand what you signed when you asked for probation? Mr. Flowers,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reyes.
Judge, Mr. Reyes did not apply for probation. It's a time case.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Perez, did I ask you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gomez
Yes, Your Honor.
and Mr. Granados. You understood what you signed
Yes.
when you asked for probation. All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
Gentlemen, just so we know and understand, probation is a written legal binding agreement between you and this court. That agreement is that you will live up to, you're giving your word, you're signing your name. You will live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision. Those of you that will be on probation, those conditions are going to be read to you. You will sign them. You'll have a copy in your hands. If you violate, if you don't live up to your word, you don't live up to your agreement, the state can ask me to give you official notice, bring you in for a hearing, and at that time, the jail sentence that will be suspended for probation I can revoke that, the suspension part, and put you in jail. Does anyone have any question about that? All right.
Your Honor.
All right, then, Mr. Gomez, in your case, I approve the court's agreement. What is the length of the probation, by the way?
Judge, which case is this?
12 months, Your Honor.
12 months. Okay, I'm sorry, you did say that, 180 over 12. You are fined $500 plus court costs. You are sentenced to 180 days in Bexar County Jail, suspended for 12 months on a condition that you live up to the 100% of the conditions of supervision. You will perform 60 hours of community service restitution. You will, in good faith, participate in and complete the DWI education program. You will complete the Victim Impact Panel live. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation. And the recommendations recommended therein. And for 6 months minimum, you will have ignition interlock in your vehicle, and you're to drive no other vehicle other than your vehicle that has ignition interlock. Is that understood, Mr. Gomez?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Then do not leave this meeting or hearing. Keep him on, Paul, so that he can meet with Ms. Maricela Luna, so she can start him off on the probation program.
Will do, Your Honor.
Honor, supervisory fees?
Supervisory fee will be $34 a month. Thank you for reminding me. All right, Francisco Perez. On Mr. Perez, he too has a DWI second. What is the agreement? State.
Judge, on this one, it is again to waive the second enhancement and proceed as a DWI first.
On that motion, defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
There being no objection, the motion is granted. Mr. Pettis, your attorney has gotten, just like the other attorney, you've gotten the state to agree to reduce this to a DWI first. Understand that if you get another one, you're looking at a felony. All of you that have DWI seconds. All right. Now, to that charge, is this going to be another no contest?
I believe so, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And what will be the punishment based on that?
It's an $800 fine plus court costs, 180 days Bexar County Jail, probated over 14 months, 60 community service hours.
60?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
The DWI intervention, Victim Impact Panel live, TAP evaluation, ignition interlock for half the term, and $60 restitution to DPS. And also, Judge, just for the record, this defendant still has not signed the plea agreement form. If you could just make sure that he does that before he leaves today.
Yes, okay. All of you, the 4 defendants, pardon me, the 5 different defendants, each of you will be required to finish any paperwork that has not been signed. In addition, you're to go by within 7 days of today. And some of you that are in the courtroom, it's a lot easier. You need to go by the offices of County Court at Law Number 5 and have your thumbprint placed on the documents that are required by law. Now, Mr. Perez, to the charge of DWI first. Officially, what is your plea, sir?
Thank you.
Oh, guilty, I guess, Your Honor.
To the charge of DWI first. What is your plea?
No contest.
Francisco Perez?
No contest, Your Honor.
All right. Again, a no contest plea is considered a guilty plea. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, based on your plea of no contest and the evidence, I find you guilty, as I also find Mr. Gomez guilty. And in your case, you are.
Your Honor, oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. If that was the agreement, Ms. Pollard did state it, but we had discussed possible probating of the fine due to the fact that Mr. Bettis had been on ignition interlock during the whole pendency. There was never any issue with compliance, and it's cost prohibitive. He has 3 dependents that he takes care of. And we would just ask if the court would, we understand that's the court's discretion, but we would ask that the court consider it.
Judge, that is correct. There was an agreement to probate the fine.
How much of the fine are you talking about probating?
Judge, I had agreed to fully probate the fine to help pay for the cost of the ignition interlock.
All right. I have no problem with that. Then the $800 fine will be fully probated. Mr. Bettis, your attorney has successfully advocated for you, and what that means is if you live up to 100% of the conditions of probation, every bit of it, then you don't pay the $800. If you screw up, you fail or refuse to live up to your word and every bit of the agreement, then the deal is off. You'll be looking at the $800 fine besides the other conditions. Is that clear, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it's $800 fine plus court costs, fully probated. You're sentenced to 180 days, Bexar County Jail. Probated, suspended for 14 months. You will perform 60 hours community service restitution. You will participate in and complete the DWI intervention program. You'll participate in and complete the victim impact panel live. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation and whatever the recommendations are. You'll have ignition interlock for 7 months. The deal was that you would do 60 hours of community. I'm sorry, that you would donate or pay $60 to the DPS. DPS is fully funded by the state of Texas on a multi-billion-dollar budget. I will not require you under these circumstances. I will not require you to do that. So now, the supervisory fund, sir, how do you make a living and support yourself and your 3 dependents?
Do construction remodeling, Your Honor.
How much do you make a month?
Right now with the pandemic and everything, roughly I'm bringing home about 18 to 2,000 a month.
All right. Your supervisory fee is going to be $29 a month.
Okay, Your Honor.
Any questions, Mr. Pettis?
So that's $29 that I would be paying every time I go report?
That's $29 a month in supervisory fees to the probation office.
Okay, Your Honor.
You're not going to be coming to court anymore unless you screw up. You got it?
Yes, sir.
All right. James Flowers, you were
Yes, sir.
charged with DWI with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. State what is the agreement in reference to the charge?
Judge, on this one, for Mr. Flowers, it is to waive the 0.15 enhancement and proceed on a Class B DWI first.
And the plea will be no contest?
Yes, Judge.
There we go. It's frozen.
Okay, Mr. Flowers, to the charge of Well, first of all, Mr. Piker, the state has moved to waive and abandon the 0.15 or higher extreme intoxication enhancement. Defense have any objection? Hello, Ed Piker.
It looks like he lost connection, Judge.
Okay,
I don't have any objection.
Jose Reyes. Jose Reyes has a charge of DWI second. What has been the agreement?
That's Ed Piker's client too, Judge.
I'm sorry, that's true. All right. Mr. Collins. Pedro Granados was charged with DWI second. What is the agreement state?
Judge, the agreement here again, it's to waive that second enhancement and proceed as a DWI first.
And to that, what is going to be the plea?
No contest, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Granados, to the charge of DWI's first. Oh, excuse me. Mr. Collins, any objection to the waiving of the DWI second enhancement?
No, sir.
Then that motion is granted. Mr. Granados, to the charge of DWI first. How do you plead, sir?
No contest, Your Honor.
You understand that a no contest plea is considered a guilty plea and is sufficient for me to convict you?
Yes, I understand.
All right. Then I accept your plea of no contest. Based on your plea and the evidence, I find you guilty. State, what is the agreement on punishment?
Judge, the agreement is a $500 fine plus court costs, 180 days Bexar County Jail probated over 12 months, 50 community service hours.
50?
Yes, Judge.
Okay,
The DWI intervention, victim impact panel live, the TAP evaluation, and ignition interlock for half the term.
Judge, if I could, the ignition interlock was something I wanted to speak to the court about. And also on the community service, I want to talk to the court about that as well.
all right. As of right now, the agreement as announced is that you're fined $500 plus court costs. You're sentenced to 180 days Bexar County Jail, suspended for 12 months. You will perform 50 hours of community service restitution. You'll submit to and participate in good faith in the DWI intervention program, the victim impact panel live, the TAP evaluation and recommendations, and you will have ignition interlock for 1/2 the probation term, which is a minimum, which is 6 months. Mr. Collins, talk to me.
Yes, sir. Judge, this is a very old case, which I think a lot of cases are these days. So it's maybe not unusual in that regard because of COVID and everything, but he's been on interlock for a very long time without any sort of infractions that I'm aware of. And I think since it's been reduced to first, there's no requirement the court impose further interlock. So I would ask the court to waive that or hold it in abeyance, given the long time he's been on it already. On the community service, my client would like to see if we could make a donation to the food bank or whatever group of the court's choosing in lieu of the community service hours.
Mr. Granados, how do you make a living?
I work on elevators, sir.
No, that's interesting. What kind of money do you make?
About 4,000 a month.
And how many children do you support, if any?
None.
All right. Now, how long have you been on the ignition interlock?
For about 2 years.
You've been on it for 2 years.
And I was on a PAM unit beforehand for a year.
You're on what?
On a handheld device for a year beforehand.
Whoa, okay. So you've been
For a year.
monitored. When were you arrested? What is the date of the arrest, more or less?
It was February of 2019, I believe, Your Honor.
All right, you're coming up on 3 years. All right. The court will hold in abeyance the ignition interlock. Meaning, as long as you're living up to the community service, to the conditions of probation, you don't have to worry about ignition interlock. If you start violating and screwing up, the whole potato is available. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So I will hold in abeyance the 6 months of ignition interlock. I will be blunt and tell you that the $500 fine to me is not sufficient. I'm going to make it 800 because of your income. You've heard the people that have done before you that making a lot less and they're getting the same $500 fine. It ain't going to run with me. Now, because I'm giving you a punishment that's greater than what you agreed to, under the law, you're allowed to start all over again if you choose to do so. I think it'd be foolish, but that's strictly a choice you have to make. Your supervisory fee will be $47 a month. I will authorize the payment or donation in lieu of CSR hours. I think these were 50 in this case.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. I will authorize payment. My preference is what's called the Gabriel Project. The probation office knows where that's at and how to do it. Or you can do your choice, the San Antonio Food Bank. They're in need also. The CSR hours donation will be at the rate of $12 per hour. And the supervision, I think I announced it already, didn't I? Yes, $47 a month. Any questions, Mr. Granados?
No, sir.
Do you wish to accept this or do you want to start all over?
I accept. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Collins?
No, Your Honor, I appreciate all your courtesies and we'd ask to be excused. I guess he'll have to wait for the
Yes,
CFR.
Mr. Granados, you have to wait so you can meet with Ms. Luna to get you rolling on the probation. Again, I remind all of you, you have 7 days to come in and get your thumbprints on the documents involved. Okay, Mr. Collins, you're excused. Thank you for your times and courtesies.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Let's see, back to James Flowers and Jose Reyes. Let's see, Mr. Flowers, your charge was DWI with blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. And Mr. Reyes, your charge was DWI second. State, you have agreed to waive the 0.15 on Mr. Flowers. What are you doing on Mr. Reyes?
There are no amendments on Mr. Reyes, Judge.
Okay.
Judge,
so
I think that's an oversight. Ms. Pollard wasn't involved when Ms. Caitlin Morgan made the offer on June 2nd, which was a reduction to DWI first.
Well, did you mention that to her and discuss it?
No, sir, because we got the plea bargain papers yesterday and it's very difficult to get all that done for me. So I thought we would address it here.
All right, subject to any objection, that's fine. All right, so on Mr. Flowers, there is a motion to waive the 0.15 or higher extreme intox enhancement. Any objection, Mr. Piker?
No, sir.
There being no objection, the court grants the motion. Mr. Flowers, you're no longer charged with extreme intoxication. Now you're charged with DWI first, which lowers the range of punishment for one. To that charge, Mr. Flowers, how are you pleading?
No contest.
A no contest plea, as I have said several times now, is considered a guilty plea in this court. Is that understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Based on that and the evidence, I find you guilty. Now, what is the punishment?
Judge, in this case, it is a $500 fine plus court costs, 180 days, Bear County Jail, probated over 14 months, 48 community service hours, a DWI education, victim impact panel live, the TAP evaluation, and ignition interlock for half the term.
Judge, with regard to ignition interlock, he does not have a car. He does, however, have Scram already that he's been carrying around for a while. So we would ask that the Scram continue since he doesn't have a vehicle and already has Scram in place.
Mr. Flowers, how do you make a living? Mr. Flowers?
Detail cars and also do yards.
And how much you making in a month?
In a month, about $800 maybe,
800?
maybe.
You have children you support?
No, my children are grown.
Okay. All right. Based on your plea and your and the evidence I have found that you are guilty. On the punishment, you are fined $500, but based on your income, I'm going to probate 300 of that. That means if you live up to your word, stay out of trouble, don't do any violations, you'll only pay 200, not 500. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
If you screw up and you violate, then you're going to have the whole 500 to look at. You are sentenced to 180 days in Bear County Jail. That's the punishment you'll receive if you violate the conditions and the state asks me to give you a hearing and the evidence supports putting you in jail. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
That'll be suspended for 14 months. You'll be under supervision. You will perform 48 hours of community service restitution. You'll participate in and complete the DWI education program. You will do the VIP, the Victim Impact Panel live. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation and the recommendations. On the ignition interlock, have you had any violations at all while you've been on Scram?
No, Your Honor.
When's the last time you had any alcohol to drink?
Had to be in December. Haven't had anything since January. I've been on the Scram since January.
Mr. Flowers, have you had a serious problem with drinking?
No, sir.
I'm tempted to remove the Scram and put on what's called a portable monitor, which is less expensive.
Well, I have the mobile monitor now. $180 a month.
Okay, you don't have the ankle bracelet on?
I have the mobile, the one that you take with you and you blow in.
Okay. All right,
It's in the
so we're
courtroom
not
now.
gonna, then we're not gonna do the Scram, no Scram. Scram will be removed, but you will continue on the mobile unit where you blow into it on a regular
Yes.
basis. Now,
That's what I got.
understand one thing. If you start drinking and violating, you know what's gonna happen? Not only would you be looking at jail, but I'll put you on Scram again, which is 300 a month. We
Yeah.
understand each other?
Yes, sir. So
All
I'll
right.
just be on the one I got now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Until
And-
when?
For the 7 months.
Okay,
Now, your supervisory fee, I'm gonna make the minimum of $25 a month. I'm trying to give you some consideration, but I don't want you to think that it's gonna be easy and you screw around and mess up, I'm gonna let you ride. It ain't gonna happen.
appreciate it, y'all.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Flowers?
No, sir.
Any questions, Mr. Piker, in reference to Mr. Flowers?
No, sir.
All right. On Jose Reyes, Mr. Reyes, you were charged with driving on intoxicated second. It's my understanding you're gonna enter a plea concerning that charge. What is the agreement state?
Judge, the agreement here is, it's 44 days to do, 60 days total, Bear County Jail, I believe is the agreement.
44 days to do,
Yes, Judge.
and what do you say about 60?
I believe that would bring the total days to 60.
So I'm confused.
I thought he had 16 days in already.
My notes said he had 7 days and that
Okay.
his sentence is 44 days.
Okay, we have different notes here, but
If we look at the plea bargain or the plea agreement that was signed yesterday, he is sentenced on the bottom one. It says defendant is sentenced to 44 days, Bear County Jail.
okay, just 44 days, Judge.
Credit for time served, of course.
I don't believe the credit for time served was checked off on the plea agreement, but that's up to Judge. I'll leave that up to Judge.
All right. Anybody know what Mr. Reyes blew on the DWI second?
So I'm
can
still
tell
not
you.
sure that it's, the DWI second, I still think was supposed to be a DWI first in our agreement from June 2nd with Ms. Morgan.
All right. Ms. Pollard,
Yes, Judge.
what is the state's position on that? Because Mr. Piker is an officer of the court just like you are.
I agree. Judge, I don't have any notes on it, but I'm not opposed to proceeding as a DWI first.
All right, well, will the state make a motion to that effect?
Yes, Judge, the state moves to waive the second enhancement and just proceed as a DWI first.
Mr. Piker,
No objection.
are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right. There's no objection from defense, therefore the court grants the motion to reduce Mr. Reyes's DWI to a DWI first. Mr. Reyes, you need to understand something very simple. The fact that it's been reduced to a DWI first, still you have two DWIs on your record. You get another one, you're looking at felony prison time, state prison. Is that clear, Mr. Reyes?
You're on mute, Jose.
Well, you better know it.
Clear as water, sir.
All right. So then the court accepts, what is your plea to DWI first? How do you plead, sir?
Guilty,
No contest, Jose.
no contest. Same thing.
As I've said to all the others, a no contest plea is considered a guilty plea. You understand that?
I do.
Based on that plea, I find you guilty, the plea and the evidence. I sentence you to, how many days has he got in jail, Ed? Or
7.
state?
7 days credit so far.
So, all right, so then you are sentenced to 44 days, Bear County Jail. Credit, I will give you credit for time served, time and money run concurrent. Now, Mr. Reyes, how do you earn a living? I know
I'm a
you're not
sous
on
chef.
probation. Pardon me?
I'm a sous chef.
Okay, what kind of money do you make?
I make about between 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,400, depends on overtime.
Per week or what?
Every 2 weeks, 1,400 every 2 weeks.
Making
Make a
close
good
to
hour.
3,000 a month, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I just got this job actually, like a couple of weeks ago.
All right. On the jail sentence. Do you have children you support? I think I asked you, but
Yes, sir. No, you haven't asked me. You asked all the other individuals, but
you
not
have
me.
children you
I,
support.
I do I do have 3 children that
How old are
that I support. My daughter is 11, my son is 8, and my little baby is 4. And I'm not on child support because I provide everything that their mother asked for out of pocket. And that was a court agreement as well when we got divorced.
So if you go do about 2 more weeks in jail, how are you going to support your kids?
I've been saving up, boss. I've been saving up, sir, for this moment because I knew that I messed up and it's something that I wasn't supposed to be doing, and I learned my lesson. So I've been saving up my money, working hard, doing overtime, so that when this time came, I would be able to suffice my absence in the moment of need of some economic relief to my children.
All right. On the sentence of 44 days, the court will allow you to serve that with an ankle monitor. You'll be allowed to go to work and home only. Is that understood?
Understood, sir.
Where do you work?
I work at Rainforest Cafe. I've worked here for about 6 years now. I'm one of the sous chefs here in this location.
I understand that, but where is it? For whom?
My home?
No. Who do you work for? The name of the restaurant or?
Rainforest Cafe.
Again, say that?
Rainforest Cafe.
Rainforest?
Cafe.
All right. Okay. You will be restricted to home only, from home to work and back for the next 44 days. You understand?
Understood.
All right. Okay,
Judge,
ma'am.
when is he turning himself in? Because he does have an active warrant.
Okay, how about, you said you had saved up, why don't you surrender today? By 5 o'clock.
I'm right outside the courthouse, Judge, and I was in there earlier trying to accomplish this.
Okay, then,
Take care of it.
after
Patty
1:30,
said,
after 1:30 lunch, go back up to County Court at law number 5
you got it.
and
You got it, sir.
inform the bailiff that you're surrendering. All right?
Understood.
They will
Judge-
they'll take you to the jail. They're gonna put the monitor on the
Understood, sir.
GPS, and you'll have to do what you're supposed to do.
Judge, just said Piker, he told me that the warrant was from a violation report from your court. Is that not correct?
I have no idea. Patricia?
It was from a violation from Miss DeBlow at 7 a.m. So I get out of my job at like 1 or 2 in the morning. So sometimes I don't hear my alarm at 7 in the morning, but I blew at 10, at 5, at 10 p.m. again. And I missed the 7 a.m. blow. That's why my trial, that's why my pre-trial bond officer violated me on, because I will miss the 7 o'clock one. But the device is supposed to be monitoring me for 48 hours, consuming me any type of alcohol. So if I blew at 10, at 5 and then at 10 p.m. again, and nothingness in my bloodstream. I just happened to be asleep, and that's what the violation happened to be because I work hard. I'm a night shift manager. I have to be up to 3 in the morning taking out trash. So by the time it's 7 a.m., I gotta blow at 7. I gotta blow at 12. I gotta blow at 5. I gotta blow at 10 p.m. again. So I would miss one blow. That was the only violation that I had.
Maricela Luna?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I want the gentleman on the monitor,
Judge,
and yes,
he's not getting probation.
I understand. Oh, that's right. I'm gonna have him with Luna. All right, you're not gonna be blowing either, right? You're only gonna be on
Ankle monitor.
ankle monitor for 44 days. All right. Don't screw up, Mr. Reyes, because I'll remember that I went out of my way to help you. You
Judge, with
understand?
regard to that warrant that he has to come back for at 1:30 though, is that going to be lifted at that time since it was a violation report from this offense?
Since it's from this court, I'll go ahead and recall that warrant, Patty.
Yes, sir. So
Does
he
he-
doesn't need to turn himself in here, Judge. He can just go to the jail
Yeah,
and turn himself in.
That's correct. I understand that. So, Mr. Reyes, after you've had lunch, get a good lunch, go to the jail and surrender. Tell them that you've got to do, you need an ankle monitor for monitoring for 44 days. You got it?
Understood, sir.
All right. In fact, what you want to do first, are you in the courthouse right now?
I'm down the street. Actually, I came outside
Yeah.
to
Okay.
get some air.
After,
But I
after-
was in the court earlier in the morning,
Yeah.
and I signed it in Zoom as soon as I left the courthouse to be attentive to what's going on.
Okay, after lunch, get your lunch, then come back in here, have your thumbprint put on the papers that it's required. Then go over to the jail and surrender. Tell them you need to have your ankle monitor attached. And that should take care of it for the next 44 days. They'll be monitoring you. I don't want you running around drinking or screwing around. You understand?
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Home and work, home and work.
The only thing I'm trying to do, sir.
All right. That'll do it. If you violate that, I can always change it for you, especially within the next 30 days.
Copy
Okay,
that.
Ed, question,
Thank you.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Piker.
Yes, sir. Question, what question?
I'm asking, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. I think you covered it. We just didn't want him to get caught up in a warrant out of the same offense at
I hear you.
1:30. So it sounds like you covered it.
I'm glad you got it done. All right. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Then the court's gonna be in recess. We